Yeah. Dude, today marks 2 weeks. It is the 14th. Fuck, I gotta pay my mortgage. That's due on the 15th at the latest. Forgot about that. Shit. Okay, I'll remember. Yeah, I better write that down after this. Yeah, man. Day 14. 2 weeks into it, it does feel like a fucking lifetime. I swear, I haven't had a drink in like years, decades even. God, my liver has to be just so pristine at this point. I mean, it's just like lounging back by the pool, sipping on fucking sparkling water because obviously it doesn't drink. But yeah, man, I mean, I beat the shit out of my liver for the last couple of years, so definitely needed to take that break. I was listening to. I guess what do you think to the one listener out there? What do you think about this TikTok shit? I knew that it was gonna. I knew they decided like a year ago that they gave like what was the 19th was the day they're gonna ban it unless they sold it. And then recently I found out that, or from what I heard, was that they said they would never sell it. So they're just going to let it get banned here. I did kind of assume that there would be some sort of negotiation with Trump now that he's flipped. Because Trump originally was one of the first people like, yeah, we need to ban it. Bad China. We don't want them to have our information and access to our citizens. So he wanted to ban it, and now he's for TikTok. And from what I can understand, it's because one of his billionaire buddies that has invested a lot of money in his campaign is also a big investor in ByteDance. So now he's like, oh yeah, we love TikTok now. He also became popular on TikTok once he joined. So now he's like, oh yeah, they love me on there. So that's one of the reasons. So it's nice to see our politicians flip-flopping, you know. So I did think that they would figure out some sort of extension. My buddy Eric sent me a article about the potential extension for another couple hundred days. If I were to guess that that's probably going to happen, but who knows, man? I actually don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I guess I'm conflicted because I do think that one of the main reasons that they're pushing to ban it is because they don't have control of TikTok information. When I say they, I mean like global elites, the media, big corporations, the government. They can't control the information flow on TikTok the way that they can control the information flow on the media, and it seems like they had been controlling the information flow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Supposedly a little less with Elon with X. But so one of the big reasons why a lot of people thought that, or some people think that they want to ban TikTok, isn't necessarily because of China having our information, because you can get all that information from any platform. All our information is for sale. And so other people are like, yeah, but they can influence the American mind based on the algorithms and what they want to censor and what they want to push, which is true. But I think that some of the people that are against them banning it is like they're trying to censor information that is negative about Israel, whereas they can control that narrative pretty much everywhere else, but in TikTok they can't. So there's a lot more like it's all the videos of the IDF fucking blowing up innocent civilians and blowing up people's homes and fucking reveling in the destruction of an entire country and way of life. And you don't see that on the mainstream news, and you don't see that on some of the other platforms, but TikTok has allowed that stuff to go through. And so a lot of people feel it's one of the most uncensored ways to get news. And I tend to agree, and I think it's important to allow people to see what's happening over there. instead of, even if it's just seeing the other side. It's like whether you are more pro-Palestine or more pro-Israel, all we get here for the most part is a one-sided argument, which is pro-Israel, and all of our news conglomerates are supported or invested in by companies who are very pro-Israel. AIPAC fucking has all of our Congress and Senate bought. And so it's just like, yeah, and then of course they also control Hollywood. So, I mean, we have the main three conglomerates right there are all either influenced by AIPAC or, it's just, there's only one narrative, and it's very pro-Israel. And so it is nice to see a information highway that allows the other side of the coin, to the other side of the argument, to at least get out there so people can be a little more educated on both sides, and then they can make decisions for themselves. So I tend to agree with that. However, it does seem a little preposterous that we allow, as a sovereign nation, another country to control such huge companies in our, I guess, in our country. And this guy that I listened to news from, Sagar, on Breaking Points, he made a really good point. It's just like, in some of these other, like in China, they would never let U.S. countries like run a social network in their country and allow us to spread our information to their citizens. Now, however, I mean, the point is they are a lot more dictator or authoritarianism, and this authoritarian. And the same with like Russia, and they are a lot more authoritarian. So I do think there has to be a balance where it's just like, yeah, we can't just allow other countries to control a narrative in our own country. That does seem a little absurd. And so potentially, maybe they should have, gotten rid of it a long time ago before it got so big, and now it's a big deal. But I don't know. I think there can be guardrails on that without actually getting rid of the platform. I think that for the vast majority of people, they just use it for fun. I don't use TikTok that much, but I use it a little bit. I have some friends that are pretty big on it, and I do get annoyed with just how much they fucking censor every goddamn word. It's just like, if you say fuck, if you say shit, if you say thick, like, I mean, there's all these words that they're like, oh, they won't let you promote on the algorithm. Like, dude, are we still censoring swear words in 2025? It seems so silly. So that kind of shit is a little weird to me. I mean, I get the whole like kid thing. It's just like, yeah, just have it not made for kids. I think YouTube has a system where it's just like, yeah, it's not for kids, so it's not for kids under 18 or whatever. And so yeah, you can say fuck, you can say pussy, you can say, maybe you can't, and maybe that's why I'm not successful, because I say all those words. So I don't really know, but the whole idea of just censoring silly little words is annoying. And then, so speaking of censorship, so yeah, I'm just not sure how I feel about that. I think that we'll probably end up finding some sort of resolution where it's still operating. I did look at the percentage of use that Americans are on the platform versus anywhere else. And so we are the number one user of TikTok, but we're 15% of their use. So it's like, if they lose America, they're still getting 85% of their daily users, and I'm sure they can still build that up over time. So like, yeah, it's going to be a temporary hit for the company, but all in all, like, it would set a bad precedent for them. It's just like, if we can determine what they can run and can't run in our airwaves, or where, I don't know, internet waves, whatever you call it. They're not microwaves. They're not ocean waves. I assume it's airwaves. I'm not really sure. But yeah, so the censorship thing is definitely taking the stage on I guess discourse again lately, which is good, because we had a big period of time during like when Trump was elected the first time, and with COVID, where it did feel like all these platforms were censoring everything and censoring information. And now just hit the news recently that Zuckerberg is going back and moving to more of a free speech platform, and they're not going to be censoring so many things. And I was talking to my friend Hannah about it, and she's just like, I can't believe it. Like, now they're just going to be letting misinformation go online again. And so I do understand that there are people that are very like, no, we like it that they censored the misinformation. But the problem is, it's just like there's no actual freedom of speech if you just, I mean, as somebody who puts my information online, all it takes is to go against the corporate narrative and they just, cut you off. And that to me isn't something that's not like an era that I want to live in. It's not the climate that I want to live in. So I am personally very happy that Facebook is now getting rid of the fact checkers, moving to more of a community notes idea. So yeah, it's like if somebody puts out a piece of information and the consensus of the group can then weigh in and be like, actually, here's some information showing that that's wrong, and then that is attached to it. But that doesn't mean that the original post is hidden or just squashed in the algorithm, which is what they were doing. It's just like, oh, if your thing went against the government narrative, then they would just squash it in the algorithm, so nobody would see it, which is the same as censoring it. And the problem with that is just like, who decides what is true? Because they were censoring things like that, like the prime example would be like the Hunter laptop story, which turned out to be true. But like if you posted it at the time, they would squash you, or they would ding your account, or they would suspend your account or whatever for posting something that turned out to be true. And the same with like when COVID first happened, there was the whole what do they call that, made in the lab theory, which turned out to be true. But at the time they were saying like, no, that's racist. You can't say that. You can't even talk about it. Like it's clearly came from an animal. And then, a year and a half later, the lab leak hypothesis, that's the one, turned out to be true as well. So it's just like, so you can't just you don't want a system where the government or the powers that be are just censoring you just because you have a different view of the world. And if you're worried about misinformation, then you want to have better facts, and then you can community notes that stuff and be like, actually, that's wrong. Here is the evidence to show why you're wrong, and then it's just like, okay, there you go. You can have the narrative and people can see both sides and decide for themselves. So, yeah, I mean, as an American that lives in freedom of speech society, I definitely think that freedom of speech is important. I think that is typically, or it used to be, like a very left principle, but I think it's right too. I mean, I think both sides should be able to agree that we need freedom of speech. I do remember growing up, it was like the religious right that was often censoring things based on religion. So they didn't want cuss words. They're the ones who made the parental advisory happen on rap records. They were trying to get hip hop banned in the first place. So all that shit is like bullshit, So it was like, yeah, they did it too back then. Now it does seem like the left censors a little more as well. So I guess I would say that I'm pretty anti-censorship. You want people to have a voice and to be able to say their opinions, and social media seems to be the town square. And for example, it does feel like when I post something that is about like innocent Palestinians getting killed, it does feel, and I could be wrong on this, but it does feel like that shit gets censored or throttled. And that seems a little fucked up. seems like, oh, can people not say that they are upset that innocent civilians are getting bombed and killed and starved? Like, can people not say that without getting their accounts throttled or censored? I don't know that to be true. It's just like my own subjective opinion, but I have heard that narrative from other people that have posted a lot of pro innocent civilians not getting murdered, that kind of shit. So who knows? I mean, I know that there has been even in like, you know, mainstream news, some of the night shows, when somebody will say something, they'll change the clips for YouTube. They will quickly move on to another subject. Like, people do not want to talk about anything that makes Israel even paints them in any light other than just saints, you know. So anyway, it's an interesting time as somebody who podcasts and who does content like this. I definitely am very much for no censorship and the freedom to be able to express discourse. And it's just like, yeah, like, even if you if it's a subject, even if you're wrong, you should still be able to like express your opinion, and then have debates about it and talk back and forth to see, you know, like, why people believe the way they do. And it's, if you censor certain speech, like, they just go underground and it festers, and then people think, oh, so they are censoring me, that means that convinces people they're right even more, you know. So it's like, say you're gonna censor some like white nationalist shit, which is pretty offensive, but then it's just like, if you censor them, then they're like, oh, see, they don't want our voices to be heard because they know we're right, and then they, you know, they go underground, and that kind of shit builds. So it's like, let it be in the open, and let other people debate them, and also debunk them, and call them out, and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, I got a podcast tonight with my friend Julie. I'm excited. We weren't able to make it happen yesterday, but we're going to run that today. I just released my podcast with my friend Sam yesterday. If you're still listening, check that out. It's on the channel. And I'm going to keep doing these for at least 75 days and see how I feel after that. But tomorrow starts week number 3. Fuck, this shit is a grind. All right, peace.